Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for this very short pre-show.
It's about time.
I'm glad you came on. Neil was about to have a heart attack.
Well, because I gotta get it on. I gotta put it on mute. Put the phone in my pocket. So
Oh my. Multitask.
No, because the type I'm doing, I'm mixing packs, so I got my hands wet. I'm like, start the damn show already.
Well, if we hear a gulp sound, we know where it fell into.
I heard an interesting claim the other day on 24/7.
What was that?
That pressure causes phase changes. Or let's see, what was it? They didn't say it exactly like that. They said, I said something about, heat causing the phase changes. So pressure can cause it too,
Maybe he doesn't know a good
What's that, Elijah?
my bad. I need two VCs at the same time.
That was classic.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is because it's obviously not the pressure causing the phase change, or you could just push on water and make ice. You know what I mean?
Well, it depends how much pressure and if it's contained in a container that once you push it down or add more to it, pressure develops, right? Just like propane and.
Well, it's the amount of pressure is affecting the temperature at which the phase change takes place, but the pressure is not causing the phase change.
No, but the two are linked, as you've just pointed out. I was waiting for you to get to it before I jumped in. But yes, the two are intrinsically linked.
Right, you'll never push on water to make ice. That's just not how it works. No. Pressure doesn't cause the phase change.
No.
But there's a lot of crazy stuff being said out there, I guess. World's a ball and downward vector.
Nice. What a segue.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th man, father of a stolen child, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Where's Eli gone?
He'll be back probably. He was here.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
About time.
You've been here for 5 minutes. What are you moaning about?
I know, the guy's amazing today.
That's a bit waylaid because I was editing a video. It just ended up being far more complex to edit out the sections of yesterday's show because it was segmented into, I don't know, the pre-show, the after-show, and Rumpus, a different person discussing one topic. So it was a lot more time-consuming than I expected. And once you get into the flow of these things, if you stop, you forget where you started and take half an hour to get back into it. So I was just like, no, I'm just going to plow through. If we're late, we're late.
Yeah, it gave Neil a heart attack.
We weren't late, though. I've got that buffer for the pre-show to give me the leeway to do that sort of work. And the live show still gets out on time. Nobody knows any of the different. If we weren't having this conversation, none of the live audience who are watching now would have any clue that there was any issue or that I'd started 5 minutes before the show started. Nobody knows.
As long
Neil
as it's
knows.
work related.
Neil knows.
Neil knows, and I know. Neil knows. And I'm going to know about it if Neil's knowing about it. Heaven forbid, Neil had to set up his phone and put it in his pocket. Me, I've got about 35 windows running. There we go.
Yeah. Come on, Neil. Give the guy a break.
Indeed. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
No, not anymore. Not even before. Black Swan killed it.
Not physical.
They're going to try and slip it in, just like yesterday, hence me editing that video. So check that out. It'll probably get released today. I don't know what I'll call it. But that is a typified example of them trying to smuggle in a physical tangent point Earth curve edge horizon to have the sun go behind it. Well, you're going to have to accept it one day or another that we've debunked your Earth curve edge. The horizon's not Earth curve. Now, you can try and smuggle it in. It's just not going to happen.
Well, the audacity to say you don't need a tangent line to find it when all through history up to this point, that's what they've been saying they used. And all of a sudden, today's trench ballers say, oh, you don't need a tangent line.
It's technically a burden of proof reversal fallacy, though, isn't it? Because they're saying you don't need a tangent line in their phraseology. Now, that's because they're using it as an attack on our rebuttal. But they, in other words, if I'm a glober, I'm saying, as a globe head, we don't need a tangent for our Earth curve geometry. Not you.
Good luck.
What? It sounds crazy though. How are you measuring without a tangent?
Who
They're not.
cares? We don't need a tangent as flat earthers.
Nobody says the horizon's Earth curve anyway.
We don't need
Jim
a
Osmond.
tangent, and our reference frames aren't ruined because we don't have any.
It's the same thing, Neil. So when they say you don't need a tangent, well, I don't need a tangent. You're right. Well, I'm not asserting geometry in any way, shape, or form, but you are, and you definitely need a tangent. Likewise, you need 2 reference frames to prove Earth spinning. So telling me, like Simon Dan did, that you and your reference frames are ruined is probably just because he's stupid and doesn't understand what Coriolis is. But moreover, and more importantly, it debunks the assertion. He's telling me that because we don't observe the effect. And he knows it. That's why he's telling me my claim, which isn't my claim, that we have 2 reference frames to prove Earth spinning. Yeah? The fact that we give examples where that's not demonstrated has led Dan to believe that he's going to debunk my claim that we've got reference frames that should show the effect that the globe claims. Just too stupid to realise it. You're going to reverse the burden of proof, know when to do it and how to do it. Don't just assert that the very claim that the globe's making is debunked because I rebut it and point out how your reference frames don't work. That doesn't make them my reference frame. It certainly doesn't mean that they need debunking by a globe head like Dan. It just really makes him look stupid. But there we go. That's globe heads for you.
But look at the evolution of it. We don't expect to see it. Now, we don't need tangents. What's next?
Nobody says the horizon's Earth curve. What's next has happened.
Well, I'll tell you what's next. Planar Walk came in a 24/7 Discord claiming that there was geometry to everything. Shortly after, he said we wouldn't expect to see geometry.
Yeah, I've got a clip of him saying it. I use it quite frequently. They don't know when they're double speaking. It's cognitively based as opposed to deception based.
Yeah, he's saying you wouldn't expect to see geometry, but it's all geometry.
Yeah, we wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. Now let's take you to my geometric Earth curve mathematics and its geometric Earth curve horizon marked with an X labelled horizon and asserted to be Earth curve. It's getting in the way of stuff. Here's the feet and inches value. But nobody's claiming the horizon's Earth curve. We don't expect to see geometry. Now have a look at my geometry. It's just cognitive dissonance.
That's going to be a one big headache when that guy wakes up.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a relief. I've had loads of people tell me how much of a relief it is when they let go of the nihilistic, heliocentric worldview. It's less stressful being a flat earther. However, that's contrasted by the massive amount of ridicule we receive. I love how they're bleating about how I'm being rude to them at the moment. That really makes my day, fundies. Keep telling me and bleating about how rude I am to you. That really, really made my day yesterday.
I find myself slipping back into it sometimes, not into believing that we're on a ball, but just the way that they think. It's easy to do.
Yeah, it's because it's everywhere. It's brainwashing, and that has to be maintained. So even if you're a flat earther, you're being exposed to it. Any evidence of axial rotation, as we mentioned, Simon, Dan?
Axial rotation. What axial? What rotation? That would be Earth-based Coriolis would be a result of it, right?
Yeah, 2 reference frames that Dan says are ruined.
For something to rotate, would it need R or radius?
No, not necessarily. I mean, well, yes, it's spinning, so on a flat circular roundabout, that, even if it was a square shape, would still technically have a radius value for its spin.
Well, if we're spinning, we would have evidence of spin.
Yeah, 2 reference frames, Coriolis effect, that's what's claimed. It just doesn't happen, and when we point out that it doesn't happen, they tell us that the reference frames we're claiming are debunked. No, the globe claims reference frames, 2 of them, and drift. And when we point out it doesn't happen, you don't need to tell us our reference frames are ruined. I'm talking to you, Sideman Dan.
I think what
till the day I die.
I think what you did the other day was good because the high priests, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Cox, those type of people, they still push the argument in that direction, whereas the people in the trench are not pushing it in that direction, and they're contradicting each other. So when Neil deGrasse Tyson says the football was kicked through the field goal and Earth's rotation helped the 3 points, helped the Bengals win the game, well, the trenchers don't like that, because then that means a helicopter could go up and Earth has to turn underneath the helicopter, but it doesn't.
Yeah, for you to observe the effect, you've got to be turning underneath stuff. That's how the effect is induced. Therefore, any claim of Coriolis comes with the assertion that Earth's turning underneath stuff. And that's what they claim. Now, we point out that that means that when Neil deGrasse Tyson says the ball goes through the goal and seems to curve, in reality it's Earth turning beneath the ball. You're watching it seem to curve. It's Coriolis deflection. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that is the rhetoric. That is the claim. It's claimed we have Coriolis. He's exampling it with a football being watched from the stand seeming to curve through the goal. So he's saying Earth rotation caused it. Didn't actually curve through the goal. Earth turned underneath it, and that's what caused it to go through the goal. Well, therefore, a blimp watching the football game would also have Earth turning underneath it. And it doesn't. And likewise, a drone would have Earth turning underneath it, and it doesn't. And a plane would have Earth turning underneath it. It must have Earth turning underneath it, because that's how you observe the effect, and they claim we have it. So to see a plane seem to drift, you've got to have you turning underneath it to observe it from the ground seem to drift. And for your guy next to you to say, no, it's not really taking a curved path, it's just going straight. But because we're on an Earth that's turning underneath it, we're observing Coriolis deflection.
Yeah, and they always misattribute the numbers as well. They cheat on their own math. What I'm trying to get to is at their equator, it's going over 1,500 feet per second, turning west to east. And where I'm at in California, it's around 800 or so, say 850 or 830 feet per second. This is their model, their velocity at those different parts of latitudes. All right, well, then that means if you go up on an airplane, the Earth is turning underneath you by those measurements. But they even say, well, it's hard to tell. Yeah, but you gave it a speed. Now, if you give it a speed, why is it hard to tell?
Quick shout out to Jim Tomaselli. Hope I'm saying your name correctly. He's just joined as a penguin. Thank you very much.
Well, the first thing you got to get them to do is, if you're going to argue it from the globe, is get them to present a model. That way you don't have to defend your positive claim. Get them to assert the model. For all you globers out there.
They
Oh,
don't
yes,
like
hello.
anyone tying them to their model that hasn't been presented properly.
They've been trained how to argue within a false dichotomy. Here's how your model on the flat earth works, and this is how it's broken. And mine works better. Therefore, mine wins. My globe model's better than your flat earth model. We don't live on a model.
I don't have a flat Earth model, so what's the comparison to?
There isn't one.
Well, you know what? They have no working way of thinking if it isn't within the model. Like, so they're all the time begging the question. Like, if you ask them, can you have pressure without containment? In all instances, no, unless you're thinking about the Earth, which is a ball, which has gravity, which holds our atmosphere here, right? That's all they got.
Yeah, they have to assume that the Earth's a sphere in every single example, and they're hardwired to do so. Now, for that reason, because it trips off the tongue so naturally to a fundamentalist zealot that thinks it's on a ball, they don't recognise that they're doing something that's fallacious when they say the sun goes behind a sphere edge, when they say the sun goes down. That's an assumption of a physical tangent point Earth curve edge horizon and the sun moving behind it to go down. But when they say it, they're not even thinking, oh, of course, I'm slipping in my begging the question fallacy here. They just automatically assume they're on that model, and therefore the way the model has described it as working is how they'll describe their reality. And they do. They describe it in the way the model describes it. It's like, hold on. Why are you describing the sun as going down behind an Earth curve edge? Well, because I know the Earth's a sphere before I've even made my claim. That's why. And you go, yeah, that's you begging the question.
Well, part of their geometric religion is making models, isn't it?
I don't know. Maybe graven images. Who knows? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Absolutely
No.
no. Good one.
No? Nobody got an R value?
No. No.
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
No.
At best,
How would you measure?
debunked the radius.
That's Mr. Sensible. At best, you would debunk the radius of Earth. Go on, John.
Oh, how would you measure it if you don't have a tangent that you can draw?
You don't. That's where it's debunked. That's the conclusion of the Black Swan. That's the end of the globe model. That's the reason why it's the end of the globe model. Correct to ask.
That
So all these geodetic surveyors that are measuring a tangent plane don't have a tangent. They're just measuring a plane.
Correct. They have to deal with the ground beneath their feet as a plane, because that is precisely how you will deal with the world we're living on, which is a plane. But prior to them making the measurements of the tangent plane, as you described it, they will assume that the horizon's a tangent point, and that they've got a circle around them that's going to be a flat plane that they'll be measuring. And it's done by way of the datum. Well, that assumption isn't necessary when you're making the measurements, because they're measuring a flat plane in the first instance. And they haven't got a tangent point to make the assumption. So that's been debunked also. So correct, John. What are they left with? Well, they're left with a plane.
So are you also would you agree that the only way that they could actually prove that there was an R value is if the black swan wasn't possible?
How do you mean if the black swan was impossible? If the Earth was a sphere, we would have a sphere edge tangent point horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That was where it would physically be. Like a hill, it would be there physically and block your view physically because it's a sphere edge. That's what the geometry asserts. And the black swans debunked it because it's beyond the geometric limitations of that physical obstruction. So I don't really understand when you say if it wasn't true.
No,
if we hadn't got a black swan.
that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying if all swans were white, that would be the one singular way that they would actually be able to prove that the radius is the radius.
That's correct. So you flip the black swan in terms of its logical consistency, which doesn't pad out, and assert it in terms of the claim that would have to be made and proven with the black swan. So if the Earth's sphere with a radius 3959, then every distance to horizon will be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And, because in a different reality where we are on a sphere, it is! Look, there it is, physically blocking stuff. Obviously, it's because there's a curved surface beneath your feet, and that falls away at 8 inches per mile squared. And where it does that, it's going to block the things behind it. And it does. There you go. Proof positive. Here's our calculators to back it up that measure it. That's what they'd say. Now, in reality, they say it's refracted. It's non-physical. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. We don't expect to see geometry. Nobody's claiming the horizon is Earth curve. Well, yeah, you are, but we've debunked it because it's beyond the geometric limitations of a sphere Earth. Yeah, just assert the first part of modus tollens and then show that that's true. And it can't ever not be true. That's why it's a black swan argument. You only need one example where the horizon's beyond the physical limitations of a geometric sphere to show that we're not on a geometric sphere. Because a physical sphere doesn't blow up one day and get bigger. Therefore, the horizon is an Earth curve. Never was, never will be.
Well, go on, John.
I was going to say that's what converted me. I don't like saying converted, but that's what made me see the problem, because I was assuming that that there was geometry to the horizon, and every time someone would bring the Earth curve calculator up to prove something, I'd be like, what are you? You're arguing about how much curve we see,
Exactly. The general public is hardwired to assume that things that is asserted in the heliocentric model are their world. One of those things that's pre-assumed is that a horizon's Earth curve. It's the edge of the Earth. Every picture of a horizon that's being punted by the sphere side is going to be claimed to be Earth curve, a physical edge obstruction, edge of a sphere beyond which you can't see. That's a physical geometric tangent point Earth curve edge horizon. Doesn't matter how you dice it, their horizon's Earth curve. In physical terms. And we've debunked that.
It's what I was going to say earlier was they claim it's physical, they claim Earth curve, they claim the geometry, they claim all of that stuff. But when it comes to defend it, we coined the phrase. We say, welcome to flat Earth, because all their arguments is about an apparent horizon.
Well, 10th, I think that they should just take some time to reflect.
Nice one. Nice
Yeah,
one.
well, that's double speak because they insert this apparent horizon, which is completely redundant. So when they say, no, what we see is the apparent horizon. No, all horizons are by definition apparent. It's the apparent position where the sky meets the land or sea. Well, it's not the apparent position where the sun meets where the sky meets the land or sea. It's by definition apparent. All horizons are apparent, but the horizon in their geometric Earth curve mathematics is physically capable of tangent measurements. It's a physical obstruction to things in the distance. Well, that physical tangent point Earth curve edge horizon has been debunked because from this cartoon view on screen now, the black swan would have that edge horizon that's depicted out to the orbital path of the moon if it was a physical Earth curve edge, and it's not. We've debunked it.
Right, but that's my point. So they'll say refraction afterwards, and that's the way QE set up the argument. And when they do that, we say, "Welcome to flat Earth." That's what we wanted you to say.
Yeah, refraction means it's deviated from straight. The line to the horizon's no longer capable of being a tangent for their geometry. So therefore, welcome to flat Earth. You haven't got Earth curve as your horizon anymore. Refracted horizons aren't geometric tangent point Earth curve edge obstructions.
I've got to say this. There's a chick that's doing a video against Brian's logic, and she's talking about how a straight piece of tape paper, like, so imagine like insulation tape, but it's obviously not sticky. And she pulls it straight, and she describes that as straight. But then she wraps it in a curl around a bottle, and then she says that's still straight. And I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking, she actually.
What?
So she's twisting it like a helix, like a single helix around the bottle, and then claiming that it's still straight. And I'm like, you're an idiot.
That's a visual representation akin to the bouncy balls on a trampoline and bowling ball trampoline example. Because what she's trying to visually depict is a geodesic in space time.
Yeah, but she's calling it a straight line when she's wrapped it around a bar, and it's like, that isn't straight, darling. You don't understand what straight and curved means.
Yeah, she's a globe believer. Of course she does. She believes in the globe. Yeah.
There's the line in your pocket still straight.
I 1000% don't believe that. You know what? Okay, forget it. You don't know what straight and curved is? You're a liar.
Like I remember in school, the teacher would say, "Sit up straight." Well, how am I sitting for her to say that? Come on, man.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No such thing.
And now over to our gravity correspondent, Sleeping Warrior.
I'm being mithered in the background about checking opening times. You have to give me 2 minutes while I randomly drop what I'm doing so that I can do something for somebody else.
And now Arwin with the weather.
Can I do sports?
If you can link it to flat Earth, you can.
Wait, what?
Field goals.
That's what I was about to do.
God damn! Why did I think of that? I fell into that one.
Just drop everything.
Drop everything. Boom, boom.
Right, I found out what time the thing shuts, so I'm good now. Hillbilly Blue Balls. He's doing a repeat of the Cavendish non-experiment, thinking that it's going to prove gravity and debunk Einstein. Now, obviously, we don't really care whether he claims. We know he's going to claim victory anyway, but he's got a couple of problems with it, and he's having a little bit of flack, and it's deserved flack, but he denies that it's deserved. First off, he started saying things like, well, why don't you repeat the test and then you can criticize me. Until then, you can sit down and shut up. But he didn't know that we were running a test in the background, kind of along the same lines as what he's doing, just to see whether we get the same results that he's getting. And we're not obviously getting the same results, and we're not sure for why. And we can be open and honest about that because we don't know why it's acting a little bit daft. Anyway, Hillbilly's doing his test, and in the Cavendish experiment paper that was published at the Royal Society, at the top of page 3, he describes about the effect of convecting currents, air currents caused by opening doors or changing temperature or pressure fluctuations or whatever. He talks about the currents. Now, Hillbilly Blue Balls thinks that because he's got a garage, that I think he's got the air of the house all circulating around the garage as well as he has around the house. He seems to think that because the temperature in the garage is similar to the house, that when he opens and closes the doors, it doesn't cause any currents. He ignores the fact that the opening and the closing of the door causes a big waft each time he opens and closes it, which is twice. When he goes in, he wants to open it and then does what he's doing, and then he goes out again and opens it and closes it again. So then 2 times that the door opens and closes, regardless of the temperature, it causes a movement of air. Now, I've got a video of him acknowledging that just by being in the same room, it causes a fluctuation, right? And it's that fluctuation in the Cavendish paper that is the reason for why he states that you've got to be outside the room with a door that is kept shut. So I've pointed this out to him and he denies it because he says that the temperatures are consistent and it's not about temperatures, it's about the movements of air. Currents causing temperature of the air, that's one thing, but like I say, the wafting of the door. Fundamentally, he doesn't accept the criticism that Cavendish says you've got to have the door shut and you've got to control it from the outside. He doesn't accept this. So I've said to him, well, you can't pick and choose because it's Cavendish's test that you're supposed to be repeating. When Cavendish says you've got to be outside the room and have the door shut and keep it shut, it doesn't mean that you can be inside and do it from the inside. But he's very, very, very reluctant to accept that he's got to be outside. Now, from our perspective, it causes two problems. One, he's causing the manipulation of the air currents by shuffling around the room. And two, there's a direct risk that he's actually influencing it directly by doing something that we don't see on camera. And I wouldn't put it past him. So I've said to him, listen, you can't be inside that room whilst you're doing that test. You've got to be totally isolated from it because your presence causes effect. I've got a clip of him acknowledging that his presence causes a movement, and he still doesn't accept that he's got to be outside.
Anthony.
So, yeah.
Are we talking about a guy who tried to demonstrate gas pressure out of a container with 3 containers?
Yeah, but
you
we don't
really
need to,
give a crap what he's doing?
Yeah, we are, Neil, but I don't want to attack him personally on a different front right now. I don't want to sink to those levels as much as I'm being accused of being rude at the moment.
Not only that, but Cavendish is not an experiment. Why are you entertaining
right,
this guy?
Neil. You jump in the gun, right? Let me just... I'm sorry, Anthony. Are you okay for a little pause? Can you hold that thought? I do want to come back to you.
Yeah.
Right. About 5 years ago, Neil, we were all under the misapprehension that we had to explain things that we weren't actually claiming. And every time we did anything, we were told that we needed to go back and do it differently. We need to gather more data. We hadn't done it correctly. Blah, 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 blah. And we were being poked and getting annoyed. And now the tables have completely turned.
Okay, I got it.
Now,
I got it.
It's okay. Just let me explain it, though, because there's an audience, Neil. So, based on that, Anthony has set about, saying to this person, well, I can bosh a Cavendish together with a group that are doing it while you're doing it, so we can do that too. Meanwhile, you're doing it wrong. Here's why. And I'm going to refer to your source, Cavendish, to show you why you're doing it wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, Neil. At the end of this process, does that mean that we're going to turn around and say, let me get it straight? So your hypothesis is mass attracts mass, and the reason or cause is because of mass. So if mass, then mass attracts mass is your claim to be naturally occurring phenomena, which you'll demonstrate by dropping a pen or something. Now, gas has mass in your world view of mass. So is gas attracting other gas? No, in fact, it's repelling it. It's doing the complete opposite, flying in the face of your claim that that's a naturally observed phenomena when things with mass are literally repelling themselves. So when he gets to the end of this process, which Anthony will hold him to task on for hopefully quite some significant period of time, pointing out his errors and mistakes and doors wafts and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't mean that at the end we won't just still take a giant steaming crap on it. We will. And we'll point out exactly how he hasn't got a naturally phenomena. In fact, his claim that mass attracts mass is debunked by me boiling a kettle and watching those steam particles fly apart from each other in all directions, not attract one another. You know what I mean? So it's very easy to debunk this crap. But in the meantime, let's keep him busy. And Anthony's doing just that and doing a very damn fine job of doing it. To Hillbilly Blue Ball's great frustration, he started threatening Anthony. Wonderful. Let's show them up for the complete scum that they actually are.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anthony, continue.
So I have tried pointing out to him the importance of him not being in the room, and he doesn't accept it, even though it literally says on page 3 of the paper, it says you shouldn't be in the room, the door must remain shut. and it's because you influence it, right? Whether that's mass attracting mass or air currents or temperature from your head as you emit heat, because we all know that your head emits most of the heat from your body, right? You're causing interference, and he knows it. So even though he knows that he's causing interference, because it's demonstrated in one of his clips, and I've sent it to him, he still ignores the fact that he's able to be inside the room. And it's like, why are you so adamant that you've got to be inside when it expressly states that you need to be outside? And I've got to ask the question, if it was me and it said that, and they all pointed out that you couldn't be in the room, they would have a heyday. But when I point it out, even though our side is now supporting it, which is great, thanks all for the support, nobody on his side is saying, hey, hillbilly, you need to get outside, mate, because it does say that in the paper. All of them are saying, it doesn't make that much of a difference, does it? Even though he's on camera saying that he causes the effect because it is causing movement just by being in the room. So what's the point of my story? The point is, when he first started doing this Cavendish test, I thought that he would be honest, and I thought that he would show that he can't get it to work, despite the claims of how easy it is. I thought he'd be honest and say he couldn't get it to work. No. He's being totally dishonest. He doesn't like being corrected on things that he's not doing correct, and starts threatening me with violence, which I find astonishing how quick he went from accepting fair criticism to ready to fight. Because it's like, dude, you what, upwards of 60, coming towards 70, and you've got enough fight in you to start throwing, you want to start throwing punches. Dude, you just lost. You haven't got the science on your side. You haven't got the experiment on your side. You're not going to debunk Einstein with this. That's why Einstein came after this. What are you actually trying to achieve other than making yourself look like a fool? Show us your science without you being in the room. It's that simple.
I think
so. We can't go over to his channel.
Can I say something?
Well, you were trying to get in first, Paul, so go ahead.
Okay, I posted a video in Master B. I can't share it because I'm not on my computer, so I can't really do anything. But it's interesting that even the current science, so-called, says, in that video kind of bears it out, that it's called chaos theory. Basically, the meaning is any slight changes will change the outcome. Any slight changes of anything. And if you put too many things in play, even those slight changes can still change the outcome of the variable outcome. It's called the butterfly effect. I mean, they usually talk about it within, time travel and all this stuff, but even within current things happening. So you're right, Anthony, because if he's in the room, anything can affect the outcome because, like you said, the heat, the wind currents, and this is within their own rhetoric. So stay on point for that.
Well, that's why they're called constants in an experiment, right?
But talking about constants, I want to come back to that. I mean, there's a thing in Jurassic Park when he explains chaos theory. So he sat in the back of the truck. I think it's Jeff Goldblum explaining it, and he takes a drop of water and puts it on the back of the female character's hand, and it dribbles off her hand. And she goes, okay. And then he says, watch again, I'll put it in exactly the same place. So he puts the drop of water on the same place, and it dribbles in a different direction. He starts explaining, well, there's tiny imperfections in your hand, the way your blood's moving, all of these different things are going to change the outcome. Tiny, almost imperceivable details that you wouldn't really consider could change the outcome, have changed the outcome. That's chaos theory. So he explains it to her. Anyway, back to Anthony. Anthony, I mean, obviously we want to make this as science as possible, don't we? So I've got a suggestion for Hillbilly Blue Balls, and it is a Nathan Oakley original. So, you can give me credit afterwards once you do this, and I expect you to do this, Hillbilly Blue Balls, because science. What I think you should do is you should put some polystyrene around the apparatus and suspend that, because then, obviously being a very lightweight material, should there be any air currents, you'd see it, what was the word Anthony used? Waft. You'd see the waft in the polystyrene. So, I mean, I'm going to take all credit for it, but I think that's going to make it more science, and you should absolutely thank me later when you do it and show, look, the polystyrene's not moving, therefore, no air current, no waft.
See, the thing is, there's a couple of problems with that. Sly Sparkane did that, didn't he, on his Cavendish experiment, which coincidentally does no longer appear on his channel anymore. He's removed it.
Excuse me.
But you can't put...
No. Nathan Oakley original idea, I think you'll find.
Yeah, maybe an original idea, but Sly did something very similar with styrene boards, and that's not on his channel anymore for us to laugh at.
Prove it.
Wonder why.
Prove it. It's my idea. Yeah, I think you should do some polystyrene around it. I mean, if there's some pretender clown that's ripped me off and then done it wrong and taken it down, then, fair enough. But hillbilly. Polystyrene, mate. Yeah, mass doesn't attract mass. That's not a natural phenomenon. Gas disproves it. Polystyrene, though, your apparatus, you crack on with that.
Well, it's funny. He's criticised me for not following the plans that what's his face Cavendish did. But if you actually look at what Blue's done, he hasn't followed it either, and he's added stuff that doesn't exist in the test, and he's not doing stuff that should exist in the test. Like, for example, he's got another steel or a lead ball or whatever, some kind of metal ball that's like an additional ball that shouldn't be in the test, but he's using it to move the things around, the weights around. Now, it doesn't say that on Cavendish's paper. He's just got a turn screw, and that adjusts the rotation. But he's got another ball in the room. There's another additional mass in the room right next to the thing. And it's like, dude, why are you criticizing me for not following Cavendish's test when you haven't done it yourself? The hypocrisy is outstanding. It's unbelievable, even. Yeah. I'm just going to find the clip where he... Oh, I've got a... Nathan, if I present my screen, do you want to play this? This is astonishing.
Sure.
Present my entire screen. Now, this is glorious. This is hypocrisy at its absolute best.
Make sure you mute your mic when you're playing it, though.
Pardon?
Make sure you make it big, make it look nice. Tell me when you're ready, and then mute your mic when you play it.
I don't need the sound. I'm going to put subtitles on so you can see it.
Oh, okay. Is it on?
Yeah. So aside from the fact that he's now using the phraseology, he's getting to be fair, he's using the correct phraseology, but look at what his hypothesis is. Two masses will attract each other with a force that obeys Newton's law of gravity. Well, it's law of gravitation, isn't it? But his independent variable, distance. But anyway, so hopefully the subtitles will come on now. Maybe not. Here we go. So look what he says here now. In this particular video, a couple of days ago, the torsion balance was allowed to sit overnight and stabilize, and it was showing a steady rating of about 242 millimeters. Now you'll see it move a little bit right at first because just my presence out there setting up the time lapse is enough to disturb it, right? So he's admitting that his presence is enough to disturb it. So when we go to Cavendish's paper, it says at the top of page 3, it says, as I was convinced of the necessity of guarding against this source of error, he's talking about ascending error and descending, which is basically convection currents. As I was convinced of the necessity of guarding against this source of error, I resolved to place the apparatus in a garage which should remain constantly shut. Now, he acknowledges that he's influencing it. And in the paper, he says the door should remain constantly shut and to observe the motion of the arm from without by means of a telescope. Well, we can forgive him for not needing a telescope. We have got web cameras, and I think that's a fair compromise. We don't need a telescope. But we're not going to allow him to not have the door constantly shut. It does have to be constantly shut because, as we've just determined, his own presence is enough to disturb it. So he knows it is. Yeah, he thinks that I'm lying by pointing this out and that I don't understand what he's saying. In the paper, when we read, the door remains constantly shut. The guy's, there's some reason why he needs to be in that room and he doesn't want to let go of it. And I don't know exactly what it is, but he doesn't want to do what it says in the paper. The guy's a hypocrite.
Okay, so this is the Cavendish experiment. Bear that in mind when I ask and hopefully get the correct answer for the next question. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, they're all observation-based, Nathan, and do not have any valid independent variable or valid hypothesis.
But we were just discussing in detail the Cavendish experiment. Surely that's got a viable hypothesis, right?
Well, we can go back to Hillbilly Blue Balls and see what his hypothesis claim is. So his observed phenomena, right? His observed phenomena is mass attracting mass. Not about helium balloons or gas molecules that go up or like eggs in water or anything that floats in water. That he just thinks mass attracts mass. His hypothesis is that two masses will attract each other with a force that obeys Newton's law of gravity. It's the wrong phraseology, but yeah. Should we pull this apart or should we just sit here and smile?
did it during your talk when Neil interjected and said, yeah, we'll let him close the door, add his polystyrene, make sure he isolates the test. Obviously, when he does that, we'll find some criticism that means he's got to do it again. And if he doesn't, we'll just claim victory based on the fact he hasn't done it right, which he hasn't. And should he get it done correctly and get the result he wants, we'll then say, hang on a second, does steam have mass? Does it attract the other mass? No, it doesn't. Oh, okay. So you haven't got a viable phenomena then? Oh, well, this was all put for nothing. But in the meantime, crack on with it with your polystyrene and close the door. But no viable hypothesis.
Well, here's a
Go on, Paul.
Here's a truth. Here's one. In a so-called Cavendish, it's supposed to be proving mass attracting mass, right? Well, if it's Einstein, then they should try to determine time dilation, right? So in this Cavendish experiment, how they're going to prove it's time dilation that's causing the masses to be moved towards each other on a geodesic.
I like what you've done there. What you've done is you've tried to get them to prove an Einsteinian concept within a Newtonian claim to be experiment. I like it.
But it's all the same, Nathan. It's all the same.
No, it isn't.
It's all the same to them.
To them,
I know, but it's in their mind it is. All the equations work out, and you know what I mean. So come on now.
Completely different geometry. Pseudo-Riemannian 4 space versus Euclidean 3 space. So no, totally different geometry.
And they're one's a push and one's a pull. They're the exact opposite claim.
One's a force, one's not a force. Completely different.
You're just being a complicated rock.
Hold on, did I hear I'm just being awkward or rude?
Nathan, he's still screen sharing me.
George said you're being a complicated rock.
I can be though. What have we got up? I've got it up now, Anthony.
So I just want to point out, just because I know that Hillbilly will be watching. He doesn't like being called Hillbilly Blue Balls either. He really doesn't like that. So obviously make sure you call him that because it bugs him. But anyway, so this is the issue, Hillbilly. Right at first, just because my presence out there, and then it says, just because my presence out there, setting up the time lapse is enough to disturb it. So literally black and white. And then in the Cavendish experiment, it literally says without entering the room. So you're going to have to do it from outside, Hillbilly. Why? Because it says so. Not because I think it's going to make any difference. Not because I'm being funny, but because that's what Cavendish says, not me. He's trying to make it personal against me as though I'm nitpicking and being pedantic and all this. And I'm not. I'm just saying that you're trying to do Cavendish. You've got to do what Cavendish said, not what you think Cavendish said or not what you want Cavendish to have said. You've got to do what he said. Why? Because he's the one that's the scientist that you're supposed to be validating. Science is a bitch, isn't it, when you don't want to do it?
Can I make a request then? If he's specifically gone out of his way, this is more of a question first. There's something to follow on though. As he specifically said, I prefer you didn't call me Hillbilly Blue Balls.
Yeah.
Can we drop it?
He said
if he'll do the same.
He said something like, if you keep calling me that, I'm gonna make sure you're Nathan No Balls or something like that. He said.
Well, that's where this descends into. That's why I'm kind of saying, can you drop it? I'll ask QE if he'll do the same. Just call him what his channel name is. He's putting the effort in. He's putting the work in. I don't mind giving his name, naming his channel. If people, there's plenty of ball believers who come and watch the show who would potentially go and subscribe to it, right? And we never mention his channel name. Well, he's putting the effort in. He's interacting with us. Fair play to him. At least, if he's specifically moaned about it, then the least I think we can do, given that he's obviously playing ball to a certain extent, is honour his request. So if Blue Marble Science would prefer to be called by his channel name, hopefully it'll grow his channel a little bit. Great. I'm more than happy to do that. If you're more than happy to do it, Anthony, if you're not, I'll go with whatever you're willing to do, because this is your bag, not mine. I don't care about Hillbilly Blue Balls, Redneck, Retard, or whether or not he wants to be called Blue Marble Science. But given that you're in this discussion, I'm saying a little bit of give and take always works. He's giving, you should maybe give a little bit back and say, okay, fair enough. I'll stop calling it. I don't know about QE, I'll ask.
See, you've got to balance that with the opposing argument, right? The bipartisan approach, because what he calls me and you is sloppy and slappy. Should we call him Blue Marble Science whilst he's like calling me slappy or sloppy and you're the other one? It's like,
Look, I don't care. Same applies to everybody else who personally attacks me on both my side and on the Globe side. I don't care about their... It's so far in my past in terms of my consideration or care for their personal attacks. So I don't care. Oh, right. So he ad homs me.
It's just
Don't care.
it's just the hypocrisy of it that's the issue, not the name calling. It's the hypocrisy.
I know. But you can either go, okay, I'll play along with your hypocrisy, and then you're just as bad as he. Or you can say, okay, you've specifically requested I don't do that. Okay, I won't. Now, about that door. And if he continues to ad hom you can point that out at a later date that you've risen above it.
It's going to be so hard because I actually can't. I have to think now about what his channel name is because it just flows off the tongue.
Blue Marble Science is his name. Subscribe today if you want heliocentric affirmation bias or confirmation bias.
No, don't subscribe today. Shout out retracted.
Blue Marble Science is his channel name, and if you want to subscribe to somebody because they're on the side of heliocentrism, then more power to you. Look, as much as I dislike it, right, Anthony, when I go onto one of the opponent's channels and say thanks for the advert, they may not like this, but I mean it. Now, I get so limited exposure on YouTube that literally the best I can do is my opponents mentioning my channel. That's as good as it gets. So I'm still going to thank them for that. Now, do I give a crap about the ad hom personal attacks that will come my way if that's the only exposure I'm getting to new people? No. Well, at the very least, I've said this before. I'm sure I've said it in reference to a completely different YouTuber. I forget who to reference back to it, but I have done this on multiple occasions when it comes to our opponents. On this score, they're just a YouTuber. Now, the fact that they disagree in debate is irrelevant. On a YouTube front, yeah, why not say his channel name?
Can I do a comparison here and see if it's valid?
Sure. Or disagree with me, or agree with Anthony, whichever you like.
No, it's not even that. I like the kinder, gentler Nathan Oakley. So enough said. Anyway, the dielectric acceleration in a vacuum with a balloon filled with helium. Balloon bursts. Helium is no longer contained by the balloon's outer structure. What happens to that helium in a vacuum?
It expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume.
Correct. So now let's contrast that with this thing with Cavendish, that he walks in the room. Most doors have a little gap at the bottom so it could swing open and shut. And I remember as a kid, I used to put my fingers there and feel air currents coming through there at a pretty fast pace, depending on if there was a window open in the other room. And then let alone walking in that room, hitting all the gas particles. And Rumpus the other day, last week, I think, came on and said, those things are so sensitive. So it's obvious Anthony's nailed him on what's going on here. He's not reproducing Cavendish the way Cavendish did it. And even if you look at what the dielectric acceleration boys are saying over there, that gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom. There's nothing pulling it down because it goes in all directions. So kills both arguments right there.
Why has Bob changed his position now? Bob was saying that gas did go down, go boom, boom.
No, I'm saying that's what he says. So obviously he's wrong because gas goes in all
And
directions.
you know what? And you know what? That doesn't really matter. Because for me personally, I'm tired of entertaining people's like they make up their own definitions. The point of a definition is because it describes an action. Well, in this case, it describes an action. And so to say, well, this is what's happening in my understanding of the world. I don't listen. Can gas be contained by anything other than walls or not? That's it for me.
Well, you raise a valid point there because he's to redefine a word to shoehorn your perception of the world, your worldview into the test that you're doing. Hillbilly Blue Marble Science, redefined what a container was when he did his gas pressure without a container video, which is still on his channel today, by the way. He had a pipe going up the side of his house, and at the other end of the pipe, at the bottom end of the pipe, there was a hose that went into a gas pressureometer, I guess. I don't know I can't remember what the equipment was, but it was this little device that measured the gas pressure. And I said we all laughed at him and said, like, you've got a container. And he said, no, it's not a container if it hasn't got a lid on it. And we were like, what? Okay, so in that case, then take away the pipe and then do it without get the gas pressure, and obviously it'll just bleed all over the floor, and then evaporate and then disperse quickly. But in this setup, he knew that if he used a tall and thin tube, it would take a long time for the gas to disperse out of the tube because obviously there's only a small surface area at the top. So he redefined the word container so that it didn't have a lid in his example, so that he could claim that it was a gas pressure without a container. What he should have done was said gas pressure without a container with an asterisk, and then defined container to be, I'm defining it to be without a lid, guys. And then it would have been accurate.
Still a container. A cup is still a container. The fact that you can leave it on the window ledge full of water and come back a week later and there's nothing in it. Well,
no, he said for the purposes of his test, it wasn't a container because it didn't have a lid.
Well, yeah, a pipe is a container. Just want to read out one of these comments from, I think it's the guy who just joined, actually, Jim Tonselli. He says, am I missing something? If you're trying to prove gravity, then it needs to be your independent variable. So if you say mass, isn't that game over? You're not verifying gravity, you're verifying mass. Easy, no? Yeah, correct. It needs to be your independent variable. If you're claiming it as a cause, then it's got to be the thing you vary. If it's not, then what are you varying? Well, mass, which is undefined, or has several definitions.
Yeah, that's where we get to at the end of his test when he claims victory, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
What are you eating there, Anthony?
Wow, can you hear that? I'm eating soup, but I'm trying to do it super, super quiet.
Hang on. You're going to affect the show just like you're in the room.
And
I was about to say your speaking apparatus is sensitive.
Yeah, you cause a load of feedback when you open your mic when someone's talking for Eli, just so you know. Anyway,
Just goes to show, even when I was trying to be quiet, the microphone picks it up right. It's the same thing with being in the room, Hillbilly, Blue Marble Science. If you're going to be in the room, you're going to be influencing it, and you know it. So let's do what the paper says, eh? Let's do it from outside the room, like the paper says. It's not difficult. Just set up a little wire going outside and then pull it. It's not that hard.
Don't
Anthony, you're a scotch, Anthony. You're going to keep saying it, and I agree. Keep calling them hillbilly blue balls.
Neil, right? How dare you? Right? No, don't just say it to placate me. Just do it. Rise above it, right? At the moment, Anthony, you are sat up on a little pedestal, poking this, right? You're just poking the frog and laughing at it. Now, do you need to call the frog ugly? No, you don't. Because no matter where this ends, you're going to win. You know it and I know it. So, you know, the times have changed, and to a certain extent, you've got to rise above this stuff. Otherwise, we're just going to be compared to them on that level.
What would be a better compromise if he gave us what his first name is, so that we can call him John or Cyril or Bert, whatever his name is? That would be a much better way, because then we don't have to like personalize it, even though that is kind of personalizing it.
Depends on the person. Some people I insist on it, and that's all I'll ask for. Depends on the person. I used to do that with Tim Osman, but then he changed. He had a specific time, I can't tell you when, that he changed his character, and he made a note of it.
Yeah, he got a job.
Is that what it was?
He got a job. That's why he's not around.
No, I'm not talking about recently. I'm talking about several years ago. I mean, he was just a kid troll. And then at some point in his life, he's like, what the fuck am I doing? And he expressed that. And I took him at his word. And from that day to this, he hasn't really behaved in the same trolly manner that he had. So I stopped behaving in the way I was to him. I was as vicious as I possibly could be to him on the basis that he was a faceless, nameless troll and I could get away with it. There was nothing he could do about it. And he couldn't. And he learned the hard way how vicious someone can be to you if you're a troll because you're nameless and anonymous. It works both ways. It's a two-way street. However, that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that at a certain point you go, I don't care who you are now. You're welcome to your anonymity because you're not some scumbag that might be dangerous to people around you. Therefore, I don't care who you are. It's only about your argument from that point forward. But there's certain people that you just think, no, you are potentially a dodgy person, and I'd rather know who you are so I don't associate with you, because that might leave me in a tricky predicament if you're something that I don't know about and might not be good. Now, in that case, just to get to my point, I will get there. I don't think Blue Marble's that type of bloke. I'm pretty sure he's just average, upstanding bloke. Am I wrong? Does he strike you as some really dodgy character? He doesn't strike me as some really dodgy character. He's an opponent, And he might use a few underhanded tricks and add-ons, but don't they all?
I think your reference to a frog wasn't fit either, because his argument is not very riveting.
It's been a fun show. No, Anthony? Total silence.
Sorry, what was the question? I was being spoke to in the background. What was the question?
If are you just paying it lip service for me, and you're just going to continue calling him hillbilly? Oh, I mean, blue marble science.
It's a habit that I'm going to have to try and break at your request, and I'll be honest, the halo is not going to slip.
Not at my
It is
request.
going to slip, Nathan.
Stop.
I'll be honest.
What do you mean at my request? Twice I clarified
Well, is
that
it
it was
your
at his request. My God, I hate burden of proof reversal. No, just to be clear.
His request, it's politely and respectfully refused because he calls me slappy or sloppy, whichever it is. But your request, that's not the same as his request, is it? So it's not a burden of proof reversal. It's just considering it from a different perspective.
I'm asking you to consider his request, and oh God.
Yeah, so it's not a burden of proof reversal, then, is it?
Request. Who cares?
It's not a burden of proof reversal, then, is it?
Well, if you make it my request, it is, because it isn't. I really went to great trouble to confirm that he specifically said, I'd prefer you didn't call me that. And you go, okay, fine. You're going to the effort of playing ball with Anthony in this instance. Great. That's not exactly a big request, is it?
I don't know. It depends, man, because like he's quick to jump to the violence thing. Whereas I'm quite happy to take the guy to a pub for a pint. He wants to take me, he wants to deck me, and he's like getting on 70. It's like, you've got to admire the fight in the dog and the old dog still, right?
No.
But isn't the case that in this point, or in this context, he's saying don't refer to him this way so that I can then feel comfortable with engaging your point?
No, you don't need to. I mean, it makes me smile because when someone gets aggressive, that is a tell. And what, did you want him to not do that? Well, no, it's useful. So you can't hold that against him either when it's something that's useful.
You don't want to be called hillbilly blue ball. Stop acting like a hillbilly.
And with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a Programming Stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Mutually exclusive, then you can't use gravity to define containment. Right? In one instance, you have gas particles colliding with the walls of the container. And in another instance, you just have I don't even know.
Oh, I'll finish it for you. What you have is the statement that gas go down, boom, boom, because there's something causing it to go down, vector only.
Or being pulled, or what? Push, pull.
Gravity.
Yeah, pulled.
Gravity's forcing it to pull to the center of the mass of the Earth.
Right, because the Earth is generating gravity.
But you can't have a center mass of the Earth without an R. It's just a black swan. There.
I agree.
So it's all begging the question.
Exactly.
Everything is R related. In fact, the whole ball argument is R rated.
Everything is R rated. You're right.
Boom, boom.
Not for the intellectual children. Right. Rated R. Right. So- or maybe it's for the intellectual children. I don't know.
I've got to be honest, Anthony. I do like how you string in. What's his name again? Blue Marble Science. Anthony. I like how you stringing him along. This is pointless endeavor on his part, and will take effort. And great, mess around so that I can debunk it in one sentence at the end after a lot of effort on their part and your part.
Well, it's easy for Anthony to string him along because he's spinning a yarn.
Yeah, stringing him along in that torsion bar sense of the word. He's buggered
Yeah,
off.
the
Hasn't
torsion bar. Give me a break.
He's run away immediately. Check him out.
I mean, it's been how long since Cavendish? How long ago was that done?
I got a torsion bar growing in my back. I got to go uproot it.
Is it 100?
Cavendish was done. Cavendish was done in 1798.
Okay, since 1798 to current 2021, we have got nothing to do the same thing with a different method. That's how much it's evolved, or hasn't evolved.
223 years ago, you have Cavendish performing this experiment, and what we call CV Boys Reverend John Michel Cavendish gravity. But that was superseded 106 years ago by Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian force space.
Right, but that's coming in. That's coming in from a different angle, and absolutely correct. But I'm just.
I get what you mean, Neil. Neil. I get what you mean, 10th Man. Because, like, in the same way that you can boil water with fire or an electric stove, you can achieve the same result.
Correct. So this very important element of their ball religion, gravity, which is superseded. Einstein said, no, there's no mass attracts mass. They're still clinging on to it. And the one so-called experiment, not real experiment, Cavendish, hasn't been improved upon. With all the technology.
You mean I don't need to put the top on my pressure cooker?
Yeah, I love the pressure cookers. They work well.
I keep hearing about them detecting gravitational waves and such.
All made up stuff.
Yeah, that's why we ask for any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, in this instance, cosmology or astrophysics.
I remember reading on some papers concerning, can't remember what subject. I think you guys will catch on to what I'm referencing. And it says the gravitational vector, like near a mountain. Go, what? We're talking about this. Why'd you bring that in? I mean, this is early on in just reading their stuff. It's like, what gravitational vector near a mountain? But they slip it in. They slip gravity, gravitational vectors. They slip it in all their writings just to keep the lie going. And people say, oh, well, it must be true. It's in this paper.
Yeah, make it part of the language.
So did you see a correlation when I compared dielectric acceleration to what Cavendish is trying to do?
Well, they're both debunked by gas.
Correct. So easy. Why can't people see it?
Let's hope that Blue Marble Science doesn't see it until he's messed around a lot, been told how wrong he is in terms of the actual rhetoric from Cavendish, in terms of the parameters laid down by Cavendish. And then once he's done all those things, we'll then say, oh, what about gas? Has that got mass?
Yeah, the ancients, and it wasn't too long ago, all believed the Earth was stationary and a plane, and they've got this recent paradigm telling everyone we're a ball moving in unbelievable different speeds throughout the empty vastness of space. This is the very most recent thing on the total scale of how it's being taught through the schools when it came in. I mean, we got stuff early 1900s arguing it, and books that taught the Earth was a flat plane, and all the ancient literature that refers to Earth as stationary, as a plane, and the stars are moving above our heads. All of a sudden, we got this reversal going on, which is quite recent in comparative history, and they're definitely planning something with aliens, because they have to give you the idea that there were many other worlds and other life beings, and all the news articles on every subject touches the subject. Like it's almost coming to where they're going to pull the string on it.
Yeah, they declassified some alien stuff. I was listening to it on that damn Bongino show.
Yeah, so right there, here's a news show, and they're talking about it. And then you'll get on the Sci-Fi Channel, they're talking about it, but you expect them to talk about it, though.
Yeah, but Dan Bongino's the political guy, so
That's what I'm saying. It's a news show,
right.
So it's in all the genres. So
And
then,
he's taking over for what's his name? Who was that guy who just died of cancer? The talk show guy, very famous, Rush Limbaugh.
yeah, Rush.
I think he's taking over his
spot.
time slot. Yeah, his spot in the show. So yeah, they're pushing this alien nonsense for sure.
Well, and then you've got the head of the Catholic Church, which is a fraud, the Pope, saying he'll baptize them. Really? Who do you think you are?
Weird how they've done that, and in some ways, it kind of makes me think, what validity is there to this? Because I don't know if you ever remember me explaining that in terms of the acceptance process, you have people violently oppose it and ridicule it, and then eventually accept it. It's obvious. Eli? No, it's 10th.
No, that was me.
Oh,
I just wanted to say, if he baptizes them and they're the same aliens as signs, then he's going to kill them.
There's no aliens, Neil. They're going to be demons posing as aliens.
No, the ones in movie Signs, they were allergic to water. Water killed them.
To be fair, I had the same exact noise in my background.
Yeah, I got some banging going on. Sorry, Nathan. I'm on mute.
So in terms of the programming with aliens, so you go back to maybe it was true in the 40s, I'm not sure, but 50s, 60s, 70s certainly, they ridicule the idea of aliens, really ridicule it. And then over time, people violently opposed it throughout the 70s and 80s, and then you get to the point in the 90s where you've got the X-Files and people start to accept it. And then you get to fast forward 30 years later, and now they're talking about it in the news. It's just accepted as obvious. Now, unless it's extremely clever reverse psychology, which I doubt, it makes me wonder about the validity. And I've always stated that in terms of the assertions that we're under some dome, I don't know that's the case. Now, I know that we must be contained because we've got gas pressure, but I don't know anything about the containment or its restraints, right? So therefore, there's a very good possibility that what we are being programmed to believe is something that comes from the sky. Now, we will get to 10th Man in a minute in terms of his biblical connotations that he would imply from this, but outside of that assertion that things have potentially come from the sky that are quote-unquote aliens, if you consider what we actually term in even modern language as an alien, it's somebody from a foreign land, right? If you're in our territory currently, you'd be called an alien if you're not part of this land originally, legally, or a legal alien. Yeah, well, why is that the same term? Well, because it might be the same thing. In other words, when we look out to the sky and think, oh, there could be another world, well, you just change that mindset to the horizon instead of the sky and think, well, in the same way that you've got Captain Cook or whoever making discoveries of people in a different land that have existed there anyway, just independently of us, then what's to say that there aren't dozens or hundreds or thousands or millions more as you move out towards the
Yeah.
horizon.
Yep. They literally call them extraterrestrials, or used to.
Exactly, terra being terra firma in our case, what we call Earth, and extra terra. They just spin that out into the sky and say, well, the extra terra is the lights in the sky. You go, well, maybe the extra terra is just the extra land that we don't know about. And when we talk about the secrets and interesting nature that is Antarctica, I go, why is it one particular part of the world that is assumed by flat earthers to be an ice ring, assumed to be on the bottom of a globe, but why have this boring bit of desolate land the focus of a lot of attention? Well, because potentially, and I've said this before, if you're going to have actual secrets, they're not going to be known, right? They're going to be secret. So, shh, Antarctica. And then have a load of people go there because they're convinced that it's got some significance and then die in the process in the really bleak cold. Now, whatever reason it's bleak and cold there, who cares? Maybe seek out different lands in different directions towards the horizon, I might add.
Yeah, I'll give the biblical view in the summary form. I mean, there are scriptures I could recite, but basically, there is a different world. It's a spiritual world, and there are fallen angels who are demons, and then there's God's angels, and then obviously God is spiritual, and He's the creator. He never had a beginning. He's self-existing, and then He decides He wants to create the world, and it tells us in Genesis how He created it. And then we've got the stories of the Nephilim and the giants and the angels coming down having relations with the daughters of men. And God has to destroy the world before the gene pool gets destroyed and the DNA. And so it all goes back to Genesis 3:15, where God says, I'm going to fix everything through the seed of the woman. So Satan has to destroy life so Christ can't be born out of a virgin and redeem mankind. And so God could judge the sins of the world on the sacrifice of Christ instead of us, so that there's forgiveness for the Christian or anyone who comes to God. And that's the only way, because you got to be perfect to be with God, and no one's perfect. Then we're all sinners, and how am I going to be perfect? Well, God has to figure that out, and He did. And so at the last days, it talks about the knowledge will increase, and it says that Lucifer, the devil, is the prince of the air, and he'll do many signs and wonders. So it actually fits in quite well, because I've been around since 59, when I was born, 1959 that is, just in case there's a baller out there who thought I said 1859. And I've seen, I remember reading those UFO little things at the store. You buy these little stories, and it was intriguing to me as a kid. And I've just seen how everything is more rapid and more often now on the same subject. And when I hear religious people, not saying they're Christians or anything, but religious people saying they're going to welcome them and baptize them and say, well, if God made us, then God made them too. And what's the problem with them coming and visiting us? It's like, okay, dokie. So this fits perfect, because there's going to be a great deception that if it was possible, the scripture says, even the elect can be fooled, but it won't be, because the Holy Spirit won't let you be fooled. So what kind of deception would that have to be? What kind of deception would bring the whole world together? Well, our politicians, I've got Kissinger and Ronald Reagan saying, well, if there was a outside source, force, or entity that threatened the world, humanity would come together. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I just know the plausibility is right here in our times. I've never seen it like this. Just the world's gone mad.
Right. So in the 50s, you're saying there was propaganda towards the promotion of aliens?
Well, I would say the 60s for me, because I was born in 59. So give me a few years to learn, and then have to come to America, learn the language. So I would say 68, 69, all that time, there were all these, UFO little subculture and these little books that at the store I would go and I say, oh, the UFO, I want to read it. Because I kind of, was there when Apollo went to the moon. I saw it all on TV, blah, blah, blah. And so it was like, okay, well, it could be this. And as a kid, your imagination's running wild, right? Until I got a little older, went to school, and I said, well, how can that be? And then that's when the teacher says, well, I don't even believe it, but I got to teach it. So, as you grow up, you leave those childish things behind, but it was there. And it wasn't as it is today. Today, it's like everywhere. And it's mainstream today. Back then, it was not mainstream at all.
Well, how many cartoons have you watched coming up where they would dig to China?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Where is China for every cartoon everywhere? To dig to China. Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's everywhere. How about the Jetsons? The Jetsons was a fun show to watch, but they were indoctrinating you as you're watching it.
And the Flintstones as well.
Yeah, and the Flintstones.
Funny enough, and I love those. Those are the dynamics punch for my morning or my evening whenever I watched it.
Hey, Eli, I want to tell you something. You like the Jetsons?
I do.
What was the boy's name?
Elroy.
What was his the father's name?
I
Meet
forget the
George
characters
Jetson?
now. Jetson George. Yeah.
And what about the dog?
Dog.
Astro,
Was it Pluto?
right?
Oh, it's Astro, right?
Yeah, you aren't a big fan of the Jetsons. Now listen, I'm gonna tell you something. It wasn't from me. I had this corrections officer call me.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm gonna tell you this joke.
All right.
Corrections officer called me to my thing and proceed to ask me about the Jetsons. And I said, yeah, I love the Jetsons. So he takes me through their names, and I knew all their names. And then he threw a curveball at me, and he said, what was the black guy's name? And I'm thinking, and I said, there was no black guy in the Jetsons. He looked at me, he smiled, he said, the future's looking good, isn't it? And then he lifted up his sleeve, and he had the noose with the black baby on it. I was like, wow, this is getting hairy over here. This is upstate New York, all the way up by like Buffalo.
Nothing like Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I thought about. I'm like, okay, well, I would at least be able to name the Flintstones like Bam Bam, Wilma, Fred.
Pebbles. Dino, Pebbles.
I know the Flintstones good. What was what's his name in the Flintstone? The
Barney.
boss. No. Flintstone's boss.
I was just trying to remember. I was just because I know it's not Mr. Spacely, which that's from the Jetsons.
Yeah, that's the Jetsons. You got that one. I think it was Mr. Rockwell.
Yeah, something.
Mr. Rockwell. Well, it's somebody's cousin. Yeah, it's definitely wrapped up, Nathan, from being subculture to main culture now.
He who controls the past and all that stuff. So if you've got somebody telling you about what the heliocentric world is in the form of a cartoon, the Jetsons, and you've also got the explanation for what the past is in the form of Flintstones with their dinosaurs, then you've got the kids wrapped up in the paradigms before they're even 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you have like when mainstream, so news used to be something that's boring, right? Like if I'm coming up, my generation, oh, it's boring, whatever. Well, now it's cool for news to be in talk shows, to get your political news from things like Facebook and Instagram. But that's exactly what they've done to NASA too. Like they popularized them, they put them on T-shirts in every urban outfitter. You know, it's the clothes are everywhere. You go into any store, Jimmy Jazz, any middle income, low income store, you'll find this stuff.
And let me give you, yeah, that's ideal what you're saying there, exactly. But you said news. Back then, there's like 3 channels for news, main news, and then you had your local channel. But it would be like for half an hour, 15 minutes, just to catch the weather, and that's all people did. Turn to the news. Today, it's 24/7. All these cable channels. It's at the airport all the time. It's all news, news. It's really just total indoctrination that started out with good shows, fun shows like Gunsmoke or Bonanza or some of these other nature shows that they would show and family time together. Once everyone got a TV, the plan evolved, and now they're just constantly indoctrinating you with fake news, fake news, fake news. And people are watching it like crazy because it's like nuts what's over time has happened.
I think there'd be some funny interruptions when we're talking about things like the Jetsons and Flintstones. That's normally the level of interaction that we get from them.
Maybe they don't like the bam bam moment.
Yeah, we call our youngest daughter that.
Yeah. So innocent, so fun when you were a kid. And now when you look back, you say, wow, what a plan they had. So no fundies in the Discord. They're done. They're tired of fighting the realities of the flat plane we live on and the motionless Earth. There'll be somebody out there still believing in the ball.
Don't hold your breath.
Well, my dog likes a ball. That's about it. So Rumpus came on yesterday, started off with an ad hom, said I'm idiotic. And he didn't even realize I was quoting his own pseudoscience when I was reading everything from their own sites on right ascension and declination. Not that how the stars are mapped is pseudoscience and how they move in the sky. I'm not referring that as pseudoscience, but what they say it means, their outcome of it, their description of it. But they have definitely mapped the sky. And the right ascension declination, like I said, I'm just pouring time into it because there's something there that's going to surprise them. I sense it. I just haven't put all the things together. But basically, that is a grid system for all the stars and how they move above us. And the other way coordinate system is from the Earth, and that's using altitude and azimuth. And we have our longitude, latitude for Earth, and the celestial sphere has its right ascension and declination. And the first point of Aries is their Greenwich Mean Time, basically, where all the other stars are gauged by, just like on Earth, if you're traveling and you use GMT time to get your longitude and latitude coordinates exact. So it's going to backfire on them.
Mic working?
It is now.
Oh. I said I was just talking for like 2 minutes.
No, we didn't hear you for 2 minutes.
I guess my mic wasn't working.
What are you going to add, Neil?
Gosh, where'd it go?
Top point.
It's a teaser. So I've noticed that I could be quoting a baller high priest, and the ballers come and argue with me, and I'm just dying inside because they don't know I'm quoting one of their high priests, and they're arguing with me. I've been doing it for a couple of years now.
Where's everybody gone?
So
Why is it so quiet?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but they ascribe it to me because I'm saying it, but I'm reading off of what their high priest is saying. And rather than searching for the truth and saying, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, or that doesn't make sense. They're constantly attacking because it's coming from me, but I'm really quoting one of theirs.
Yeah, you gotta love a hostile witness.
Yeah, but they don't know I'm using a hostile witness.
Well, the description is the hostile witness, right? When you've got a picture of a sphere with a tangent on top of it, a flat plane sat on top of a sphere, not only does it look stupid, it is definitely their claim. That's how they claim it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the images are also hostile witness. Yeah, everyone's busy today. Even the ballers are busy today. They won't come on the show.
Yeah, I might round out this after show because it's so quiet.
Yeah, well, it was a good show. We had good subjects.
Everyone's obviously tuckered out.
Yeah, good show, guys. I enjoyed it.
Well, that's good to know.
And with that,
indeed, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video. What a lovely day!